Hey, it's Juck.
Talked to Justin Hill this morning, and he said that he made up his mind in the last 24 hours that it was going to be Alabama. This is how close this recruitment was. What separated Alabama from Ohio State is the fit in the defense schematically, where Alabama was able to show him that he can play the wolf position for them and that it's on film, and Ohio State was projecting a position that they don't currently have for him.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country. And welcome in. Thank you so much for joining me at Juck on Bucks. Appreciate you guys. Got a bit of a mishmash of an episode for you today because Tuesday night I was recording my episode and then I realized, well, I'm going to go live on Wednesday at noon and we're going to have a celebration for Justin Hill's commitment. So why am I going to put this episode out at 8 in the morning and then we're going to go live again at noon? The stuff I was doing wasn't time sensitive, so I thought I would save it for Thursday, which is what I've done. Now, we did do that live. We heard early in the morning that things might not be going good with Justin Hill after for the last 3 weeks it had basically been kind of in pen that he was going to be a Buckeye. It started off when he went radio silent on the Buckeyes, and I didn't want to believe it. Then I started hearing he went radio silent on everybody. So, all right, feeling better. Then some more stuff came out. And by noon, Steve Wiltfong had changed his crystal ball to Alabama, as did Chad Simmons. And then we carried it live, and Justin Hill did not pick the good guys. So the following segment is me discussing my thoughts on the Justin Hill situation. And then the back end of the episode is the stuff I did Tuesday night. It's a bummer, man. I'm pretty bummed, but I give myself 24 hours to dwell on this kind of stuff when I get surprised with some bad news. And then that's it. It's over. Onward, moving forward. Things are great. Things couldn't be better. We're going for a national championship. Our class is number 1 in the country still, even after Justin Hill. Alabama's cooking, no doubt about that. You're going to see this on Thursday morning at 12 o'clock on Menace to Sports. Well, I'll be in the second segment with Chris. He and I just got done recording, and we discuss a little more in depth the Hill situation, amongst a lot of other things. So check me out over there at Menace to Sports at noon if you get a chance. I will talk to you soon. Now we're going to roll into the rest. Thanks, guys. All right, well, let's talk about it. So Justin Hill commits to Alabama, and it stings for a couple of reasons. The first, a couple different ways, right? The first, all right, so let's get to it. Justin Hill commits to Alabama. Hopefully you watched it live with me. If you didn't, we're going to do Riley Pettijohn on Saturday. We did Max Roy, then we did Justin Hill. So we're 1-1, hanging out in Juck's basement for announcements. Riley Pettijohn is going to be Saturday. He's going to commit at noon, which means we're going to come on live at about 11:30, hang out, chit chat, and then he's going to come on and announce. And it stings for several reasons, right? Number one, the player. This, to me, is the type of player that when you're playing those tight games in the playoffs, this type of guy that's just a little bit different, that's just a game wrecker, a disruptor, can be the difference. I think he's special. He's unique. I think the staff feels the same way. I think that's why you had 4 members of the 11-man staff go to his high school a couple weeks ago to lay out the plan for him, exactly how they feel they want to use him, exactly how different they think he is, and how special he is to them. And I think he's that type of dude. I do. So you lose out on that type of player, a player who we were going to use the jack position this year, though it was probably not even, in the regular plans, but use it just to show him this is what we're going to do with you. Now, Justin Hill has since said, since he made his announcement, that Alabama, could show him what that wolf position looked like for them. And again, Cade Womack at Alabama is going to be running the 4-2-5. And the wolf position is a hybrid defensive end linebacker who's who's a primary pass rusher as well. So very similar to the jack position. We're talking apples to apples here as far as the position goes. I mean, maybe not exactly the same, but the wolf sounds way cooler than the jack. Maybe that had something to do with it. But this guy was perfect for the jack position. And there is no plan B. And I think the fact that there is no plan B kind of shows just how different he is and how special he is and how much they wanted him. He's just that dude. And it sucks. It sucks bad. So is the fact that, did they screw up in his recruitment here? Did the fact that they were recruiting him for the jack position screw it up, that they didn't have film to do it? I don't know, man. I think they did the best they could, to be honest. The kid says after this in his interview that after his commitment, that Alabama could show him kind of proof of concept. Ohio State couldn't. While that's true, I also think that part of that, him saying that, is kind of a way to, let's be honest, he's probably going to get a lot of crap for leaving the state. And he can kind of point to that, and it's a valid excuse, right? I think he just liked Alabama better. And while that is a bummer, sometimes we see it. So losing the player is excellent. That's the first thing that stings. The second thing, losing the out-of-state player. And if you've listened to me for any amount of time, you know that this is something that I value very much. Ohio players at Ohio State. I think that when all things are equal, you always need to take the Ohio player. I think that if you are going to take 3-star players, they better be from Ohio, because an Ohio player brings an intangible that the other guy doesn't. Not only that, the transfer risk is almost none. And it's just, you get as many as you can if it makes sense. And it usually makes sense when it's a 3-star guy and, you're trying to fill out your roster. And it always makes sense when it's a bad dude, when it's a top 5 player in the state of Ohio. And I'm always going to want that guy over, let's say, for instance, if there was another player just like him somewhere else, I'm always going to want that guy from Ohio. But what I think we're seeing here, this is something that I would have normally 5 years ago or 10 years ago, even 2 years ago, just been apoplectic right now, okay? I would have just been freaking out. I'd have been mad at the staff. I'd have been furious with them for missing out on this. You cannot let this happen. It's inexcusable. But I'm starting to recalibrate my brain a little bit, because I really feel that what we're seeing in this era of player that's grown up in the social media era, and we've all felt it as adults, how much it feels like the whole world has just shrunk. Whereas when you were in high school, if you're my age, 45, looking back, the country seemed so much bigger, and everything just has shrunk because of social media. And to them, going out of state to go to school is not anywhere near as intimidating as it may have been to you or I. Now, that's my theory. That could be total nonsense, but it's really something I'm starting to think I believe, because we're now seeing so many of these players in the state of Ohio want to be nationally recruited. I don't think we saw it so much 5 years ago. I've never seen, to my recollection, so many guys just like automatically, it's just assumed, yeah, of course I'm going to take officials to Alabama. And of course I'm going to Georgia. Even a shy guy like Bo Jackson, who in his interviews since he's committed to Ohio State has kind of made it clear he always wanted to stay home. Like, if you read between the lines, basically, like what he was saying, he's a shy kid. He never wanted to do that, but he still went and took those OVs to Georgia, to Bama. And I just think that these guys are growing up seeing these edits, seeing these dudes go to their final 8 schools and then their final 4s on social media. And they want to be part of that national recruitment. It's exciting. It's fun. And the more you put that in front of you, you're going to have more guys eventually commit elsewhere, because now they're all in on this. And that sucks. I hate it. However, it's a two-way street. Zion Grady out of Alabama. Naeem Offord out of Alabama. No, we haven't sealed the deal yet. Obviously, we got a long way to go, but it's a two-way street. Now, I would prefer to hit the reset button and go back to the way it was, but there's no turning back on things like this. And if you look at the top 5 players in Ohio, you got Tavian St. Clair locked down, you got Carter Lowe locked down, you got Bo Jackson locked down. You got Justin Hill heading to Alabama. You got Trey McNutt, crystal balled to Oregon by a couple of people that are obviously Steve Wiltfong's one of them. Max Torres, who I think is fantastic, is one of them. So is Justin Hopkins. They're out at Scoop Duck on 3's Oregon site. All 3 of those dudes crystal balled him to Oregon. Trey McNutt could pull some absolute crazy stuff. I have no doubt about that. Is one of those crazy things going to be a surprise Ohio State commitment? I highly doubt it. But you never know. So you're 3 of 5 in your top 5. If you add in Dorian Brew, who did not play his high school football in Ohio last year, well, he did for some of the year, you're 50% on your top 6 guys. Without him, you're 60% on your top 5 guys. Normally, like I said, that would have me just totally beside myself. But I'm trying to recalibrate. I think we're living in a new era. And I do think the staff did the best they could under the circumstances. They didn't have it on tape to show him. Could they have recruited him in a different way? I don't know, man. I don't know. They obviously wanted him, right? We know that. And we know that if they want him, they come hard. And they certainly have done a really good job on the trail this year. So am I going to freak out about it? No, I'm not. I usually give myself 24 hours to be mad about things like this. I'm only at about 12 hours and I'm already settled down. So that's a good sign for me. I hope you guys are feeling the same. I know it sucks, man. It does suck. I'll tell you what, though. When we played the game, and I don't know if you played it or not, but when Alabama got the news Saban was retiring, okay, I played the game with some of my friends. All right, who would you take, right? If you're Alabama, you're Ohio State. Ryan Day's gone right now. Who you taking? I'm talking last offseason, or I'm talking at the end of the year when Saban retired. Who you taking? I am taking Kalen DeBoer. That was my pick. However, if I was Bama, I was taking Dan Lanning. And obviously, Lanning with the Southern recruiting ties and everything, having been at Georgia. Kalen DeBoer, I was of the mind that he is a great coach who can win with inferior talent, and his style would have fit pretty good at Ohio State, though I didn't know if he had what it took to run a blue blood program. I felt comfortable with that. I did not think he could go down to – I thought he could go down to Alabama. Recruiting would drop off. They'd still be, 6, 7 in the country, and he would be able to win big with those caliber of players at Alabama. I did not see him going down and fighting for number 1 classes, and I certainly didn't see it in his first cycle. This is doggone impressive, man. It just is. It's doggone impressive. That's an impressive coach, and I really got my foot in my mouth when it comes to him. I'll tell you what else is interesting is we're looking at a year at Ohio State, and I said this during my live stream. If the class ended today, this Ohio State class right now, just shut it down right now, finishes 3rd in last year's 24/7 rankings. That's how good we're doing. And that's great. But we also look at how good Alabama's doing and how good Oregon's doing. And Georgia's coming. They're coming. They got plenty of guys on the hook right now, and they're coming. And you're looking at those 4 schools. It is pretty doggone clear that NIL didn't level the playing field, right? Like we've got 4 of the top dogs absolutely crushing it. The rich got richer with NIL, okay? Like that's just what it is. And I'm saying that because I've been in some arguments with some people trying to say that NIL has spread out the talent. Look, that's maybe the transfer portal has helped with that. NIL in recruiting has not helped spread out the talent. The big dogs are staying the big dogs, if not bigger. And, our Buckeyes, let's review. Here we go. 247. Currently, the Buckeyes with 22 commits and a 93.7 per player average. We're up over 300 for the class, which is excellent. 3 5s, 15 4s, 4 3s. And you look at Alabama's class, I mean, it's damn near identical with 22 commits. The per player average, 93.67. I mean, almost identical. The Dogs at 93.08. They got 17 commits in, and they got some big dogs on the line still. And then if you drop down and take a look at the Ducks, 93.69. So, 0.01 behind us with 14 commits, and they got some big dogs on the line too. Now, if you go over to On3, and I think On3's system is better at this point in the class. I really like the way they do it. They factor in the average number that most classes have at this particular time. So if everybody has 11 commits in, I like the way they do it. If you have an average, let's say right now, if the average class is 14 players, then they grade you on your top 14 players, and it takes away some of the discrepancy for class numbers. So, for instance, Oregon doesn't have as many players. They got 14 guys in the class. Ohio State has 22. Well, what this does is it takes that away. So it says, okay, if the average is 11, we're grading the Ohio State and the Oregon class on 11 players. And if you look at it here, you see that LSU is actually doing quite a bit better. And LSU's per player ranking is actually number 1 in 247, but they've only got, 14 guys, 12 guys. So they're still doing really good too. Clemson actually doing really good this cycle. They got a really high per player average in 247. But our Buckeyes still at the top in both systems. Now, what are we doing from here? First, let's take a look at offensive line, because this is interesting here. So if you look at offensive line, you got Carter Lowe and Jake Cook. They're in the class up top. And the only targets still left on the board that we're aware of are David Sanders, Javon McFadden, and Josh Petty. Andrew Stargell announces tomorrow. Andrew Stargell, that's not happening. So David Sanders will announce probably towards the end of August. I think right now he's a Buckeye. Javon McFadden will announce sometime in the fall. Ohio State, Colorado, and Maryland. Those are his top 3 right now. And Josh Petty, Florida State, Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia Tech, and Stanford. I think he's going with either one of the smart schools or Florida State, where his sister goes. But we're looking at a light class. We thought we might go bigger in the numbers. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. At most, you're looking at 4 with David Sanders and Javon McFadden. So you're not going to get to that 5. But if you end up this class with Carter Lowe, David Sanders, Javon McFadden, and Jake Cook, we've absolutely crushed it, and we are feeling great. I guess the scary part is with this fantastic offensive line class in 2026 with Adam Guthrie and Sam Greer and Will Conroy, Max Riley. Can you lock these guys down, right? I mean, it starts getting scarier. Every Ohio guy you leave, it starts getting scarier. Though it does feel like offensive linemen like to stay home a little more than skilled positions. So we have not checked on wide receivers in quite a while. The committed guys, we got Des Jones, Quincy Porter, and BP Miller. Preston Bowman, the Kentucky commit, is offered. That's the Pickerington North kid. I got to feel like this guy's coming to Ohio State, right? Other targets to fill that 4th spot. Dalen McCutcheon, I think the Bucs could have him if Hartline wants him. I think the same goes with Phillip Bell at the bottom there between USC and Ohio State. Is he going to go after him? Vernell Brown, DeCorian Moore, Jamie French, they're all far, far gone. Absolutely not happening. And I like it. I don't think the Buckeyes want to spend the money this cycle. I don't think they made any effort to try to match any of those offers with those guys. And I think it's the proper course of action. You can't just keep throwing money to stack the room with loaded class after loaded class. You need that money. You got to spread it out. You got to have guys that are going to stick around and be system guys. And when we talk about system guys, Preston Bowmans of the world, BP Millers, Des Joneses, these are going to be those guys. Quincy Porter, I think, is the super duper undervalued top dog here in this class. And that's great. So a rough day, but we've got Riley Pettijohn on Saturday. Now, there has been some talk, slanderous talk, that James Laurinaitis in class number 1, should he miss out on Riley Pettijohn, which let's keep in mind, maybe 20 days ago, Riley Pettijohn was still a pipe dream and essentially guaranteed a Texas commit. And how could you possibly blame Laurinaitis from not pulling the best linebacker out of Texas, right? He had TJ Alford, his top target on the board, Eli Lee, which opens up the door to Hoban for us, which we needed, and also a heck of a linebacker, and was in on Justin Hill for that jack spot. And now that he's lost out on Justin Hill, there's been talk that if he doesn't get Riley Pettijohn, he has had a poor class. I think that's really unfair. James Laurinaitis did not have a full cycle. His first mission when he was able to travel in a temporary capacity in his shortened first cycle was to go see TJ Alford, which he did, and he locked him down. Riley Pettijohn was always going to be a tough one. I think the fact that he's got the Buckeyes so close to landing this is honestly, it's pretty incredible. If he can pull it off, it's a huge bonus. Justin Hill, it is what it is, man. He didn't want to come to Ohio State. He liked Bama better. But to say that somehow Laurinaitis has failed, I think he's going to be an absolute dynamo recruiter. And, if we end up this class with just TJ Alford and Eli Lee, I think it's been a pretty successful class because he got his number 1 target, which was TJ Alford. Now, if TJ Alford ends up flipping out of the class, maybe you can be a little critical. I don't think that's happening at all. So I refuse to believe it. I refuse to hear any of that or any slander about James Laurinaitis. I got a story out of Utah State where the head coach, Blake Anderson, and 2 more staff members, former interim athletic director Jerry Bovee, and the director of player development and community, Austin Elbrecht, were all fired for violating policies related to reporting sexual and domestic violence and failure of professional responsibilities. Bovee was the interim athletic director in the first half of 2023. Details were not made public. The school said it cannot release additional information until all opportunities to respond or appeal have expired. That's going to be 14 days. A statement from Utah State: today's actions are the result of a thorough external investigation, and we believe that the evidence demands immediate action. Our job is to fearlessly hold ourselves and others accountable for their conduct and make sure, for our sake, that our students and community are living in the values of our university. In 2021, Anderson apologized for audio that was leaked where he said it's never been more glamorized to be a victim of sexual assault. This was part of a team presentation at Utah State. At that presentation, Police Chief Earl Morris said he experienced retaliation and harassment after releasing recordings of Anderson, making derogatory comments about sexual assault victims. So this guy sounds like a real peach, but he got fired along with 2 other staffers at Utah State. And you got to wonder, like, is this a one related incident? Are these all separate incidents? I don't know. We'll find out in 14 days. But 3 dudes on one staff getting fired, all for the same thing, and you're attaching domestic violence and sexual misconduct, certainly doesn't sound great. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Keep you posted on how that one turns out, but not sounding good at all. And we went over last week Dane Bugler, NFL guy who had predicted maybe Tyleek, maybe JT in the first round. Now we got another Matt Miller. Matt Miller, another well-respected NFL draft analyst. He's got 4 Buckeyes in the first round. So let's go over this real quick. We got JT, number 22 overall. Tyleek, number 24. Emeka, number 30. There's one more. Quinshawn. Running back in the first round. Can you believe it? We got Tyleek Williams projected to the Packers. How cool would that be? I would love to see him as a Packer. Quinshawn to the Cowboys. That'd be fun. We get to see him all the time. Abuka to the Lions. And JT to the Falcons. So that's 4 for Matt Miller. 0 for Dane Bugler so far, heading out of the spring. And our guy, Tom Fornelli, this is just a big rankings day, man. I actually got some, not rankings, but some projections. The Juck on Bucks official conference champions are coming out today. They're being released today. But all right, I wanted to hit on this as well. Tom Fornelli of CBS Sports ranked the Big Ten head coaches and did an overall ranking of all the coaches. But I wanted to go over the Big Ten. So Ryan Day, number 1 overall in the Big Ten. Ohio State's shortcomings against Michigan in recent years have overshadowed a lot of positives, but that's typically how things go in the rivalry between the Bucks and the Wolverines. Day hasn't won the Big Ten since 2020, but still a remarkable 56-8 in 5 seasons, 39-3 in conference play. Number 2, Dan Lanning. And Dan Lanning makes his top 10 overall at number 9. I was surprised to see he had Ryan Day at number 2 overall. Seems like that would be a pretty common refrain, but it certainly wasn't when we've gone over almost every one of these. Usually because I'm irritated because Ryan Day's really low. Fornelli says about Lanning. Lanning's first 2 seasons with Oregon have been impressive, 22-5 overall, but the problem is the teams he's lost to. The Ducks lost 2 games last season, both against Washington, a team that won the Pac-12 and reached the college football playoff. It was par for the course. The Ducks have yet to beat Washington under Lanning, but will continue to get chances in the Big Ten. Still, the work Lanning and his staff have done off the field, compiling a roster, is the primary reason he's ranked so high, and why so many think the Ducks are Ohio State's primary threat to win the Big Ten this year. I'm someone that probably agrees with this list here. While Lanning has not proved his chops yet as a coach, he's only had 2 years to do so. And what he's been able to do off the field looks more like someone who's a 10-year vet. So when you take those two, you got the talent acquisition part, you got the on-field coaching part. When you're really smart, you surround yourself by good coaches. I think he's done that. I think they got a really good staff. And I think it's just a matter of time before they start winning those bigger games. But I was actually talking in the comments to somebody yesterday, and they were worried about it was an Oregon fan, that the game is so big, Ohio State going out there on October 12th, that if they lose, Lanning is going to be saddled once again, even more so with that can't win the big game label that he seems to have already somehow after only coaching for 2 years, which is obviously too short an amount of time to say anybody can or can't do anything, in my opinion. But, we'll see who's favored come game time. If you lose as an underdog, I don't think somebody can fairly say you can't win the big game. If you're an underdog, you're supposed to lose. I don't know if they will be or won't be. Number 3, this is mind-boggling. Lincoln Riley somehow gets number 3. I don't know why. Great offensive coach. He's been an absolute nightmare at USC. Okay, number 3, Lincoln Riley, who's number 10 overall. Lincoln Riley's reputation took a big hit last season, and deservedly so. USC had the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams, and wasted him on an abysmal defensive performance. Still, Riley has won 4 conference titles in 7 seasons as a head coach and played for a 5th. He's been to the playoffs thrice and developed 3 Heisman winners and 3 number 1 picks. That is impressive, man. Few coaches in the sports history with that kind of resume. All right, then we go. James Franklin at Penn State, number 4. Luke Fickell, number 5. Kirk Ferentz, number 6. Jonathan Smith, number 7, ahead of Matt Rule, which I just find ridiculous. I mean, he's a really good up-and-comer. Matt Rule is an established stud. Jonathan Smith's overall record was 34-35 at Oregon State. I just can't get down with that. Number 9, Jed Fish out at Washington. Number 10, Brett Bielema. Number 11, PJ Fleck. Number 12, Greg Schiano. Schiano should be over Fleck. That's ridiculous. 13, Mike Loxley. 14, Kurt Signetti. I feel like he might fly up the board. Number 15, Sharon Moore. Moore is only ranked this low due to his lack of overall experience as a head coach. That said, he already has wins over Ohio State and Penn State on his resume. Give me a break, dude. Give me a break. Number 17, Ryan Walters. I suspect we'll see him climb as well at Purdue. And number 18, Deshaun Foster, who is obviously a brand new head coach. I feel good for him. When he got the job, there were a lot of UCLA people who were very mad about that, and he basically, in tears at the podium when he accepted the job, just kind of telling him, like, I can do this, I'm ready for this, and it was really kind of sad for his big moment that he got so crapped on. So I am rooting for him to succeed, at least, a little bit. I don't want him to succeed a lot, obviously, though I don't think we ever are going to need to worry about UCLA football becoming good again, because they just don't seem to give a darn about their program. And that's a shame, because they got such great uniforms and they play their home games at the Rose Bowl. No, I'm not too technically sound. But the other day I was asked for my predictions. So I went through and put together, now we're going to do the whole playoffs, but for today, I'm just going to do my matchups for the Big Ten championship game and the winner, Big 12 championship game in the winter, ACC, and the SEC. So that'll be the start, and we'll do a full playoff bracket at the end, but I don't want to bog down an entire episode with nothing but that, so we're going to break it up. But before I do, let's take a look at what the EA Sports game projects the playoffs to be. Our 1 seed in the EA Sports game, the NC State Wolfpack. Congrats to the Wolfpack, as they somehow got the number 1 seed. Our 2 seed, the Ole Miss Rebels. The 3 seed, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And the 4 seed, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. That's really something. So those are our teams that got the bye weeks, according to EA. The teams hosting playoff games. We've got number 5, Oregon, is going to host number 12, Rice. And somehow in every projection, Oregon is the number 5 team hosting a bum out at Autzen. So, I mean, if that actually happens, that's going to be something. Number 6, Texas hosts Utah, and that is a game, buddy. Number 7, Georgia hosts number 10, Miami. And another projection with Miami in the playoffs. Nobody's clowning me now. Number 8, Michigan hosts number 9, Texas A&M. They've got Texas A&M making the playoffs out of the SEC. That's really something, man. If Mike Elko makes the playoffs in year one, buddy, with the support they got, that might be a problem. All right, let's move on. Number 1, NC State takes on Texas A&M. Texas A&M wins and advances. Number 4, Texas Tech takes on Oregon. Oregon advances to the Final Four. Number 2, Ole Miss takes on number 7, Georgia. And Ole Miss, with the upset, advances. And number 3, Ohio State takes on number 6, Texas. The Buckeyes advance with a Final Four of Texas A&M, Oregon, Ole Miss, and Ohio State. The 2 new conference foes, Ohio State and Oregon, both advance and face off in the championship game. This is the second time in 2 days that the Buckeyes have been projected in the championship game. And this time, the Ducks win their first national championship, their third appearance, get revenge against the Buckeyes for winning in the Big Ten championship and for smashing them in the last time they played in a national championship game. Congratulations, Ducks, on your video game championship. Oh, the Ducks. Quack, quack. Okay, I'm going to start with my Big 12 projection. The official Juck on Bucks playoff predictions start today, and we're going to start with the Big 12. Kansas coming off a 10-win season last year that saw Jalen Daniels, their superstar quarterback, miss 8 games. Daniels plays at Kansas, so you don't hear a ton about him. The guy's excellent. They got experienced receivers. David Neal, their running back, returns. Really good running back. They returned 130 career starts on the right side of the offensive line, and they brought in the Remington Award winner to go ahead and fill in on the left side of that offensive line. Lance Leopold is an unbelievable coach. What he's done at Kansas is nothing short of incredible. It's one of the most incredible things we've seen in FBS football in quite a while. And they are going to meet Utah in the Big 12 championship. Utah finished 8-5 last year, disappointing, but they were missing superstar quarterback Cam Rising, whose knee was absolutely shredded. And it seemed like every week they kept telling us he might play. It was questionable. And he just never played the whole year. It was like every week we thought he might play. It was really frustrating, probably even more frustrating for Utah fans. But they can always run the ball well. They always play great defense. 7 of their top 8 are back on the defensive line. That'll be one of the best defensive lines in the country. They lost a lot in the secondary, but they're going to reload. Always good there. And Utah is something they're not ready for in the Big 12. We're talking about a defensive juggernaut coming into a league that can't play a lick of defense. They also just signed their first ever top 25 overall class. Kyle Whittingham, an absolute machine, one of the best coaches in the country. And Utah, going to win the Big 12, get the first round bye into the playoffs. All right, in the ACC, I've tipped my hand plenty on this one. Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes going to make it to the ACC championship game, and they've got a beautiful schedule for it too. Does Cam Ward play a little loose and fast with the football? Yes, he absolutely does. He also makes a ton of huge plays. And they bring in stud running back Damian Martinez from Oregon State. I'm a believer in him. That dude's the truth. Also got Mark Fletcher backing him up and a transfer running back from Ole Miss that was pretty solid. 3 starters back on the offensive line. Plus, they brought in that Indiana stud lineman, Zach Carpenter, that we wanted. Mario Cristobal, an offensive lineman and an offensive line coach. This unit's going to be excellent under him. Probably the best in the ACC. Xavier Estrepo, wide receiver, one of the most consistent wide receivers in the country. Kind of a system guy, but the dude gets it done. 85 receptions, 1,000 yards last year. And they got South Florida Express stud. Yeah, one of them stayed home. JoJo Trader, one of the most dynamic receivers in the game this year. We're definitely going to see him blow up. Also, a Chaminade Madonna guy, just like JJ. Superstar potential for that dude. Elijah Arroyo, big-time recruit, tight end out of Texas. He's paid his dues, got injured. This is his year. 6'4", 240. We're talking about a real deal tight end. Their offense is loaded. It's absolutely loaded. And Shane Dawson, their offensive coordinator, is about to blow up the ACC with this unit. They really will. One of the best offenses in the country, potential. Like, seriously, these guys are legit. Some questions in the defensive backfield, but they got a defense full of dogs up front. Defensive line, unbelievable with Marley Cook. Marley Cook is the dude out of Middle Tennessee State. One of our early shows, I featured him. Larry was after him. They went and met. And this dude looks like he is 42 years old. Kind of a shorter, squattier, just wide as a house. Really good football player. They also got, what's that kid? Oh, Simeon from Michigan State. Another stud lineman. They got Tyler Barron from Tennessee as well. And they had Reuben Bain. We're talking about a defensive line full of studs. And that's not counting the crazy recruiting class they had last year that's full of a bunch of defensive studs that some of them might actually get some playing time. All that needs to happen is Mario Cristobal needs to get out of his own way. And I think this is the year that he does it. I really do. Of course, I said that last year as well. But this year is really going to be the year. And I think Miami is going to beat Clemson. Yes, Clemson, a bit of a bounce back year after ending the season hot. They finished 9-4. They had started horribly. Remember, we were all making fun of them a lot. That was fun while it lasted, but they picked it up and ended up finishing 9-4. Cade Klubnik is going to look a little better with freshman wide receiver TJ Moore. Bryant Wesco, another wide receiver that we're going to see play really good this year, I believe. They lost a lot on the defensive line, but they've recruited well. I'm not a believer in Florida State this year. I'm not so much a believer in what they've done with their roster. They've loaded up on transfer portal guys again. DJU I just am not buying it. I'm just not. I also think they got a bit tougher schedule. And while I would like to pick Dave Doran and NC State or even Virginia Tech to kind of pull the upset here and make it to that championship game instead of Clemson, I just feel like it's Clemson, Miami, and Miami takes the cake. So our first two, we've got Utah out of the Big 12, Miami out of the ACC. Now we go to the SEC, where I think earlier on in the season, we see Georgia go into Texas because they play early, and I think Georgia goes in and beats Texas at Texas. Later on in the year, when they play in the SEC championship, I think that Texas gets their revenge. Despite not being as good of a team, Georgia's a better football team, I believe, but the better football team doesn't always win. And if we just pick Georgia and Oregon and Ohio State and Texas, it would just be boring. So we're going to go with Texas beating Georgia. Everybody's down on Texas. Yes, they lost Byron Murphy. They lost the other big dog in the middle. And, that's a big hit. Georgia doesn't have those kind of guys in the middle of the defensive line this year either. Texas also added some guys in the secondary along with two returning starters. They added my favorite defensive player of the entire transfer portal cycle, Trey Moore, University of Texas San Antonio. This dude was a guy that we were after a bit. He's an edge rusher, absolute animal. I think that he's going to be one of the best edge rushers in the game this year. Sack machine. CJ Baxter, their running back, was a freshman last year. He's going to be amazing. I'm a total believer in him. And we know what their quarterback room is. Quinn and obviously Arch Manning looks like he is really going to be very good, which I was maybe like wishing that he wouldn't be, but it looks like he's going to be. So whatever. They lost Xavier Worthy at wide receiver. They added Isaiah Bond from Alabama, a couple nice other young receivers over there. And Georgia, a little bit more talented. But like I said, the most talented team doesn't always win. And we don't really need to talk about Georgia because we've broken down Georgia and Oregon enough already. I like Georgia better. I'm picking Texas to win the SEC in their first year in the SEC, which is going to drive them nuts, and I love it. Now, on to what the viewers of this show want to hear, the Big Ten. No need to break down Ohio State and Oregon. Like I said, we've broken that down in a 50-minute episode, just the two of those teams. I think that the Buckeyes are going to go out on October 12th and squeak one out and beat the Ducks. And then I think they're going to meet again in the Big Ten championship. And this time, the Buckeyes win in convincing fashion because by then the offense is really going to be humming under one William Henry Howard. And it's going to be a fantastic display of Chip Kelly at his best and the Buckeyes shut up the Duckeyes as they win the Big Ten championship. Though both teams head to the playoffs, the Buckeyes win the Big Ten. So our 4 conference championship winners, again, are Utah, Miami, Texas, and Ohio State. We'll finish off the remainder of our playoff picks and our bracket, the official Juck on Bucks bracket, sometime after Justin Hill commits to the Buckeyes. Now, let's get to some comments and wrap her on up, guys, because we've got a big day, and we will be getting together tomorrow right around 12:40 for our live show. I hope to see as many of my friends in here as possible, and I hope that we're celebrating. If this doesn't go our way, don't be surprised if we shut it down quick. Then we might come back a little later, because I don't know if I'll be able to handle that one. Eric Tell says, you didn't say much at all about Riley Pettijohn. You seem to know something there. All I know is USC is coming hard with money. That's all I know. And that's for damn sure, for doggone sure. They are coming hard with money. And we were standing really, really good. And who knows? Okay, Nate Embry says, just commenting for the favor of the old Alg. What he means there is he is sending something into the comment section to let the algorithm know that this is a video that's getting traction, so they should send it out to more people to see. So even if you want to drop in there and throw a little a wave emoji or an O or a hello, whatever, that's something, in addition to a like or a share that always helps the video, is what he's saying there. So thank you, Nate. Appreciate it. Nate says, I can't get over the depth of this Buckeye team. I feel like we could run our second units as the starters, name any of the quarterbacks as the starter, and still have a shot to make the playoffs. It sounds arrogant and insulting. But if you really think about what those lineups would be, we'd have a formidable player at every position, even offensive line. He goes on, but I'm just going to show you, because after he sent me that, I went ahead and said, all right, let's do this little exercise. And here is what we got. So the 2024 Ohio State Buckeyes new starting roster using the 2 deep. At quarterback, we've got Devin Brown or our quarterback of choice. Either way, whatever your preference is. And how do we grade this? Let's say if you were a top 10 team, would the players in these positions start on your team? Let's say the average top 10 team. Would Devin Brown start at quarterback for the average top 10 team? I don't know, guys. What do you think? How about running back James Peoples? I believe he would. Crazy we haven't even seen him play yet, but I do believe he would. Running back TC Caffey? Probably not. Wide receiver Jaden Ballard? That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. Brandon Innes, 100%. Mylan Graham, again, a guy who hasn't played. I still believe 100% he's starting at an average top 10 team. Jelani Thurman, I think so, man. I think so. This is where it gets tough with the offensive linemen. You got Zen Mikulski at left tackle. Austin Searveld, who we've been hearing really good things about. But again, we've not seen him. Carson Hinsman, does he start at center for an average top 10 team? Yeah, after a year of experience at Ohio State in the Big Ten, yeah, I think so. Luke Montgomery, does he start at right guard? I think so. How about George Fitzpatrick at right tackle? I think so. On the defense, there's a lot of no-brainers here. Caden Curry, yes. Kenyatta, yes. Jason Moore at the 3-tech, yes. Caden McDonald at the nose, yes. Sonny at will. Arvell at Mike, yes, yes. Jermaine Matthews, Calvin Simpson-Hunt, yes, yes. Lorenzo Styles, I'm not so sure yet. That I think I got to see. Malik Hartford, and then at the strong safety, Keenan Bailey Jr. Is it Bailey? Keenan Bailey Jr.? I keep forgetting this guy's name. And Jaden Bonsu, one or the other at strong safety. Based on what we've seen out of Bonsu, I would say yes on him. I think Keenan Bailey may be even better. We'll see. But I think what we got here is on offense, I think for sure we can go Devin is 1. Ennis is 2. Mylan's 3. Jelani's 4. Carson's 5. Luke is 6. George is 7. So 7 on offense are going to start on the average top 10 team, in my opinion. And on defense, the only one I'm gonna say no at strong safety and no at nickel with Lorenzo. So 7 and 9. Could they make an average top 10 team? Yeah, they could make an average top 10 team. Could they be a national championship contending team? I don't know. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts, because once I put it all down like this and actually looked at it, I mean, it becomes a really interesting conversation. A lot of these guys are raw, and a lot of these guys we'd have seen play a ton this year, and hopefully we still do see them play a ton, but they'd have been starters this year. So let's continue with a couple more. So here's our graphic here for Riley Pettijohn with Texas A&M, USC, Ohio State, and Texas. This is a comment from Shane Stewart on Twitter. Shane is our Georgia pal, and he wanted to comment about our show the other day on Tyler Atkinson. Freak, by the way, he says, Gwinnett County is a struggle for Georgia sometimes. We call it Yankeeville, no offense. Another thing is somebody is going to hire Glenn Schumann if they're smart, linebacker coach or defensive coordinator. And Glenn Schumann is an absolute stud. So he says that Gwinnett County, which is where Atkinson lives, that must be the county. Is that where Buford High School is, where they have problems getting guys out of there? If so, that would make sense. Gwinnett County is... Oh, this is our buddy Cody. Cody is a Buckeye fan. He emailed me this. Look at this, guys. That's a drawing. He's a tattoo artist. He draws this, and he's going to get one of these printed up, and we're going to put it on the wall. So thank you, Cody. That is awesome. And I am just blown away that someone actually has this in their brain and they can put that on a piece of paper. That doesn't look like a drawing to me. That's just insane. Obviously, cool as heck. Cody's the man. Okay. Buckeye Tater 7540 says, oh, this is in response to my reality statement. He says it's not a new reality for Ohio State. We have 3 monster draft classes in a row lined up, and next year might be the best in all of college football history. We are fine losing one player that for some reason or another decided to play at another big-time program. I don't think we're going to have to worry about competing with Michigan for years after the NCAA gets done with them. So if we lose 1 or 2 guys to Oregon or USC every now and then, while still having far superior recruits overall than those schools, I'm not going to cry over spilled milk, let it go, and move on. I don't think I was harping on it. However, my statement that there is a new reality was in regards to there is a new reality that we now have a team in the Big Ten that can go toe-to-toe with us and win battles consistently. Not all the battles, but if you watch the show, I laid out all the battles that we've competed against Oregon this cycle, and it's roughly 5-5. So the new reality is there is a team in the Big Ten, we've never had to deal with this before, that can recruit with us. And that is reality. So, yeah, I'm sorry if you don't want to believe it. It's just the truth. B. Dunk says, keep them coming. The overlooked are often hungrier and grittier, particularly in the trenches. And he's talking about our new guy, Max Roy. Even more sweet that Scum thought they were getting him. Yes, it is. There's a reason Luke Fickler was as good as he was at football and goes after wrestlers. Wrestlers translate to the line of play. Thank you, B. Dunks. Chocolate Chip Hoochie Scoochie says, hey, Juck, where do you see Michigan ranked finishing the season? Think they'll be in the top 25? I think that they are going to lose to Texas, Ohio State, and Oregon. I think they're going to beat Washington. I think they're going to beat USC. The rest of their games are easy breezy, which puts them at 9-3. And 9-3 is going to have them at about 11 to 15 potentially making the playoffs, depending on if a three-loss team makes the playoffs, and if USC and Washington play relatively well aside from that loss. They'll probably be the top-ranked three-loss team in that scenario. That would suck. Jeff says, not only that, you should talk about, maybe you shouldn't even be playing these guys every year with the new teams and scheduling. That would really get their goat. So Jeff is talking about me saying that we should all pretend for a little while that Michigan is no longer our rival, and we now view Oregon as our rival, and just totally ignore them and just keep calling Oregon our rival now, and watch them twist and get their face all red. It'd be hilarious if we just all pretended at the same time for like a month or so that they were no longer our rival, made some announcements, and we just all bought into it. It would be so juvenile and petty, but harmless fun, and it would absolutely drive them insane. Chocolate Chip Hoochie says, Juck's voiceovers are the best. L-Dog says, we celebrate natties. Y'all celebrate recruiting. Ohio State hasn't won a big game in half a decade, so they look for other things to cheer about. Now, this guy said they celebrate natties, plural. That's what he said. That's a Michigan fan, said natties, plural. These guys are so dumb, man. All right, guys, I hope you can join me at 11:40. We're going to fire this puppy up live. We're going to watch Justin Hill give us the good news. And man, oh, man, do we need him. Not going to be a show, just going to be kind of a hang. And hope to see you here. So I will see you then, 11:40. Party at Juck's basement for Justin Hill. See you guys then. Talk to you soon. Juck on Bucks out. Please like the vid. Appreciate you guys so much. Have a good one.